Prep. Before we begin, I would like to give you a little information about myself. I've been a school counselor for the last 8 years, specializing in the college process from start to finish, with a special focus on international students, student athletes, and IB AP curriculum. I attended the University at Albany for my undergraduate degree and then completed my master's degree in school counseling from Hofstra University. As a member of the Moon Prep team, we specialize in the entire college process, starting as early as middle school, and more specifically, we specialize in very specific areas of the college process, including direct medical programs, Ivy League applications, the personal statement, which many of you know is the college essay, and supplements. I want to thank you all for joining me tonight. I have received your questions, and I'm excited to get started. So Mark has explained how you can ask live questions as well, using the Q&A or raising your hand. So please don't be shy and ask questions away as I move forward. But to begin, I'll begin with the first question that we received from you guys. The first one is, will it help me get accepted to the university if I attend their summer camp? It's a great question. Not necessarily, honestly. If you attend Harvard summer camp, it will not necessarily increase your chance of acceptance to Harvard, but it does look extremely impressive on your resume since it is a competitive camp. This really does apply to any competitive summer camp. We advise students to apply to numerous competitive summer camps to maximize their chances of acceptance in a program. Many competitive summer camps have acceptance rates that are very low, similar to Ivy League acceptance rates. We take a similar strategy as building your college list. When you are applying for summer camps, whether it's 9th through 11th grade, apply to many camps, safety, match, and reach. That way you have a place to be and you have a lot of options when we hear back. But we do want to be sure that it is an extremely competitive experience as well. Are there any questions about summer camps? The second question that we received in relation to summer camps is, how many summer camps should I apply to? And this really depends on the competitiveness of the summer camp. The more competitive the summer camp, the more camps you will need to apply to. It is a very similar strategy as a college application process. Students who apply to Ivy League and BSMD programs typically apply to 15 or more colleges due to the low acceptance rate. The third question we have that was sent to us about summer camps is, when should I begin applying to summer camps? And do summer camps fill up quickly? It's a great question because many summer camp applications open as early as the fall of the previous year, and the application deadline is often in the spring. So when applying to summer camps, we use the same philosophy as the college process. We recommend that you start early and keep track of deadlines. We would not want you to miss out on any opportunities. So make sure you stay organized and set internal deadlines for yourself a few weeks before the actual deadline, just in case more information is needed that you may have missed, or if there's a technology issue, or they need a transcript and your school needs some time to submit that. So we just want to be sure that you meet all deadlines, and that's for summer camps, scholarships, as well as the college process. Okay, so we received our first live question. It says, I'm currently in the 10th grade going into 11th grade. I'm taking IB French 5, but would like to switch to Spanish for next year. Would this affect my acceptance to an Ivy League college? Well, it's a great question. I think I would need a little bit more information about the 6 IB courses that you are in. As you know, you need 3 standard level and 3 higher level. And it is a fluid process. So it looks like as a 10th grader, maybe you were in like a pre-IB program. So in 11th and 12th grade, if you want to switch to Spanish for 11th and 12th, the IB program, that would be excellent. You would want to make sure that your course selection for standard level and level is correct, though, because as you know, for the full diploma, the final points that you get at the end determines if you receive the IB diploma. So the course selection for IB diploma is extremely, extremely important. So if you feel you would do better on the Spanish IB exam than you would the French, that is something to consider. But for that specifically, I would just need a little bit more information. That's something that we can talk about a little bit down the road on a more personal level. But we would want you to choose the best possible course for the IB diploma points in the end. Okay, we received our next question. Developing a balanced college list is an activity for both rising juniors and seniors. How does this change from for a student that receives an SAT, ACT score versus a student that receives her first score? It's great. So we definitely want a balanced list. We definitely want to match in our safeties. So when a student is going through the early stages of creating a college list, I encourage students to go on college visits. Size and location are extremely important. But then I also encourage students to just brainstorm, have a dream school, have some match opportunities, and have some safeties that in the back of your mind based on potential GPA as well as major and interest. As you receive your test scores, it is then important to then start looking at the 50% window of what was accepted the year before. So if you start falling into that 50% window, that school will be more of a match. And then as you continue to take SAT or ACTs, you'll be able to potentially do score choice and then add additional reach match or safeties. So it is extremely important to why not brainstorm a college list based on your wants. And then as you start moving forward with your updated GPA and additional test scores, just start making that list a little more concrete with that data. Data is out there for us, so it's important to use. I always encourage students to go to the college website, look at the acceptance rate from the year before, and see where you fit in that profile. A reach school is a school that is asking for requirements that are higher than what you're asking for example, Ivy League. A match school is asking for requirements that are right where you fall in, and a safety school is asking for requirements that are a little bit below you. So when we are making our college list, we want it to be a solid list that incorporates all three categories. We don't want to have 9 reaches, 2 matches, and then 1 safety. We want it to try and be as balanced as possible. But yes, I always encourage students to use data, SAT, GPA, extremely important pieces of data when making our college list. It was a great question. Okay, our next question is, when would be a good time to begin SAT prep? Great question. It is never too early to begin SAT or ACT prep. I always encourage students to take the PSAT seriously. If your school offers a PSAT in 9th grade, 10th grade, and 11th grade, that is amazing. It is every opportunity to see your baseline score. I always like to meet with 9th and 10th graders to discuss exactly where they fell on their PSAT. If your school even offers the plan ACT, which is the practice ACT exam as well, take that one as well and take it seriously. I can't tell you how many times students say, oh, I just Christmas treat it. It is a great way to start seeing a balance of a baseline. And then from there, you'll be able to see where your weaknesses are, where you'll have plenty of time to study and prepare. Typically, a student will take the SAT and the ACT their junior year. Early junior year would be great. I encourage students to take 1 SAT and 1 ACT because a few years ago, before the SAT was revamped, the SAT and ACT were very different. And a third of students would do better on the SAT, a third of students would do better on the ACT, and then a third of students would do equal on both exams. About 3 years ago, the SAT was put a little more in line with the ACT, but still the tests are very different. The timing is very different. The curriculum is a little different, and the amount of questions in each section is different. So since I encourage students to take 1 and 1, you'll then see which score you perform better on, and then that way you'll be able to commit to just 1 exam instead of flip-flopping between the 2 for the next year. So yes, so SAT prep, as soon as you take the PSAT, it's a great opportunity to begin looking at what areas you can work on.
Hey, real quick, hey, this is Mark. Hey, what I was asking everybody is, you know what, we're getting more and more people that are coming on. Maybe if you guys in the chat would, while we're answering these questions, we'd love to get a sense of what grade is your student or are you going to be attending next year. So maybe in the chat box, just put what year you're going to be on, just so as we start answering questions, we can really tailor some of those answers to the year. So just if you go in the chat, just type what what year you're going to be, and I'll let Alex continue asking questions. But this way we can make sure we're answering and hitting to you. There we go. And again, this is going to be the grade you're going to be entering into in the fall. So from that, go ahead and we'll get with the next question there, Alex.
Great. Yep. So we have one question waiting, and it is, what is a good way to prepare for the SAT and other than taking practice tests? That's a great question. So luckily at Moon Prep, we have Lindsay, who is actually one of our counselors and tutors, who is an excellent resource as far as SAT and ACT tutoring. The hours that you receive the program can also be used for Lindsay's tutoring as well. So that is one great way to get that one-on-one. I think it's really important to know your student and to know your child. Does your child need that one-on-one tutoring? Can they do group work? Can they do that large college SAT prep setting? SAT also has Khan Academy, which is in line with your PSAT results. So there are a lot of ways to practice for the SAT as well as the ACT. And I always like to tell the students 30 minutes a day. If you can do that, that's extremely beneficial. Doing a full practice exam, let's say every Sunday, the more practice, the better for a few reasons. One being the more confidence you gain through each section, the more confidence they will have when they walk into that test. But quite often I have students that tell me at the end of every school year that the information that I should tell the juniors moving up is they wish they studied more for the SAT or ACT, because it is an important part of the college application process. So I always just like to remind the kids, it's not the most fun thing to do. No one wants to be studying for the SAT or ACT, but it is an extremely important part of the application. It makes them as competitive as possible when they are sending in their application. So continue to practice, whether it's one-on-one prep, group, or a large college setting. I actually think full practice tests are really helpful. It helps them learn how to deal with the test fatigue and all of the, the necessary test-taking strategies of taking a 4-hour exam, which is not something that most 17-year-olds do every day.
Wow, we got a lot coming in.
Yeah, okay. So we got another one that says, is the SAT taken in 11th or 12th grade? That's a great question. So you will take the SAT or ACT as many times as necessary. Typically, you will take it starting in 11th grade, and you will continue to study and prepare through 11th grade, taking it a few times potentially. I always like to tell students, though, as you prepare for it, when you receive that score that you want, then you are done taking the SAT. So if you put in all of that energy and effort and you take it twice and you've received that score that you wanted, then you are done. So all your hard work has paid off. But yes, you can continue taking it through the summer of 11th and 12th grade, and then even into the fall of senior year. So let's remember, the fall of senior year is an extremely busy time. You're going to be doing all your curriculum and coursework. You're going to be applying to colleges. You're going to be working on your essays, your supplements, and potentially studying for the SAT and subject tests. So the fall is a very busy time senior year. So if you can work on getting the SAT score or ACT score to where you want it to be during the junior year, or at the very least July or August before senior year, it'll make your life a little easier getting that major test out of the way, and potentially give you opportunity if you still need to take some subject tests in the early fall as well. That's a really good question. Okay, so our next question. Wow, you guys are talking so much tonight. This is excellent. What is your advice for standing out on the essay for the admissions committee readers? We know that the committee only has a few months with each essay, and with so many applications, it's difficult to stand out. That is an excellent question. So the purpose of the college essay is to show them how unique you are. It is your opportunity to speak to the admissions counselors, and our goal is to stand out for the other 40,000 applications that they're receiving. So there's a few ways to do that. The first way to do that is to stay away from cliches. If they are receiving 40,000 applications and 30,000 people write the same cliche, and at this moment I can't even think of a cliche, which is kind of ironic, but we want to stay away from cliches. We want to be as descriptive as possible, and we want to be as real as possible. We want to, and typically when students are trying to write their college essay, it can be difficult. Not every single student is a creative writer, but this is why we want to start the college essay early. We want to have time to go through drafts and editing and review, and making it is reached. So what I usually encourage students to do is brainstorm exactly that. What are some stories in your life that makes you unique? You are the only person in this world with that experience. So how can you tell the admissions counselor about your experience in life? It could be something about your entire life, because the 6 Common App essay topics are very general. So any story in your life can fit one of those 6. And then the 7th one is a topic of your choice. So it really, any topic of your life will fit any of the 7 Common App essay topics. But what I do encourage students to do is not worry about trying to answer one of the 7, but just to freely write about a unique experience in their life that has changed them, left impact, something that is meaningful, something that highlights one of their strengths. We want to make sure also our college essay is not just focused on information that's on our resume. The colleges will all see your resume during the application process. So this is the time to really focus on an event or personal experience that really makes you unique, as cliche as that sounds, but that's really, really our goal. At Moon Prep, we really specialize in editing and assisting with the essay process. I really enjoy being creative with the students as well. And it is a great way to get to know the student through the Common App essay as well. It's a really great question.
Hey, Alex.
Yes.
Let me just add to people. I don't know that because there was a question about the essays. As people might know, if they go to our website, moonprep.com, we have a bunch of free resources. One of them is about essays. You may want to go in, if you haven't already, go to our site and download that information. There's some great things that not nearly as great as and eloquent as Alex just put it here, but something that you can take and keep with you. And while you're there, there's a lot of great resources there that you may be interested in as well in getting some free information. So I just wanted to add that in, and I will hand it back.
Perfect. Thanks, Mark. Okay, we have another great question. Keep them coming, guys. Great job. Okay, does taking it twice have any consequences? So I'm going to assume that's about the SAT or the ACT. And no, there's no consequences of taking the SAT or ACT more than one time. I'm sure you have heard over the last few years that a lot of colleges are now going score choice, which allows students to submit the highest score that they earned on the SAT. The ACT is a little different due to the subscores and how the composite is formed. So this is where you really have to do your research. When you are working on your college list and you are looking at the requirements for each and every school, you want to see if the school does score choice, the SAT and or the ACT. But now that the trend has really been moving in the direction of score choice. So if you take the exam one time and you get a 600 and a 600, it is out of 800 and 800 out of 16. So you get a 600 and a 600, and then you take it again and get a 700 and a 700, you'd be able to send the 700s and not the 600s. And in one area, if you go down, you wouldn't have to send that score if the school does do score choice, which is an amazing opportunity for students to really prepare and improve continuously as they take the SAT. So that was a great question. Okay, so we have another question of what is the difference between the SAT and the ACT? Great question. So years and years ago, when I took the SAT and the ACT, which I guess I am dating myself a little bit, there was many, many differences. The curriculum was very different. You had to omit. I'm sure if there's parents on this line as well, they can remember you would have to work on test taking strategies for omitting on the SAT and not for the ACT. Well, now the SAT and ACT are very much in line. And years ago, the West Coast used to take the ACT and the East Coast used to accept the SAT. Now colleges accept either SAT or ACT. So this is why I encourage you, take both tests. As we discussed a little earlier, the sections are different. The amount of questions in a section and the for each section is different. So for some students that work a little slower, the SAT might be a little better, where the ACT has a little bit more in a faster pace. So that is really up to you and your child, but that is why I encourage students to go in, register for one SAT, one ACT, and get that baseline score of seeing which one really highlights their strengths more. So that was a great question as well. Okay, so we have one more question of what is a good time to take the SAT subject tests? So that is a great question. So SAT subject tests, for those who are not aware, are specific exams in one particular subject. So we know that the SAT and ACT has math and English, for example, on it, and all different levels of math and English. And reading and writing. As for subject tests, they are specific 1-hour multiple choice exams in American history, in biology, in chemistry. So a lot of colleges, especially the Ivy Leagues, used to require 2 subject tests. And this is where the student would really have to prepare and plan which exam would highlight their knowledge, technically. So now the trend has been a little changed to subject tests may be optional for a lot of the schools, but I always like to tell my students, optional does not mean optional. If you are a talented scientist and you can take that subject test in chemistry and you can get an 800, then it is not optional, because when you get 40,000 applications, we want to see how we can highlight you as a candidate. So if you can take a subject test and do really well on it, then we want to submit it and show them your strengths and your abilities. For some of the BSMD programs, just for you to know, they actually do require Northwestern requires Math 2 and chemistry, for example, and then Boston University requires chemistry, Math 2, and then a language. So as you're working on your college list, you do want to see, is a subject test required, and is a specific subject test required? So subject tests, just for you to know, they are 1 hour long. You could take up to 3 in an SAT setting. So you cannot take a full SAT and a subject test on the same Saturday morning. So you would need to plan out your test taking plan. So you would want to make sure that you have your SAT or ACT completely done, and then you would then register to take subject tests. So they cannot be taken on the same day as you take a full SAT. What are good websites to use to practice the SAT? That's a great question. Khan Academy is a great one. As I mentioned, Lindsay can do a lot online as well through Zoom, which is great. I also encourage students to remember that the SAT is a paper-based exam. So if you're doing all of your practice through the computer, that can be a little difficult, just because when you're actually sitting at the test, it will be a different experience. For example, if you're doing everything on the computer, you're writing differently on scrap paper. You're not able to cross out choice on the computer. But when you actually are practicing on a paper, and I like the paper-based book by College Board. College Board is the copyright of the SAT, so they can use their own questions. If you buy the book, you can cross out, multiple choice sections to make sure that if you have to guess, you're guessing appropriately. But yes, so I think the computer is a great resource, but I also think using a paper resource as well, as simple as a College Board book with practice tests. That was a really good question. Okay. The next question is, sports take a lot of time, and yes, they do. Does varsity basketball help the college application process? So that is a great question. So if you are thinking about playing college sports, NCAA, Division I, Division II, Division III, or NAIA, it would look great that you have basketball on your resume. If you are, playing sports in high school for the leadership and for the commitment, then that is great. You could always play club or intramural when you're in college. But yes, college admissions counselors, they will look at your resume, and if they see that you are doing well in your courses and you are a student athlete, they certainly appreciate that. I do like to focus on that. You don't want to be in one club in 9th grade, 10th grade, and 11th grade. And then when you're in 12th grade, you don't want to then join 5. The college admissions counselors will know that you just joined 5 clubs senior year for the admissions process. So make sure that your resume is well-rounded. Make sure you're doing community service. Make sure that you have leadership opportunities. Make sure if you are an athlete, you are participating in sports, because that's something that you enjoy. It's also good for the mind and the body, especially with high school stress. Running around is a great opportunity to get some of that stress out. But yes, admissions counselors appreciate a student athlete and all of the time commitment that goes into being a student athlete. That was a great question. Okay, the next question is, can we finish SAT subject tests after finishing an AP course? So yes, that is a great. So if you are taking an AP course, let's say in 11th grade, you're taking AP chemistry, you can then, and you should register for the AP chemistry subject test that spring or that summer. Considering all year long you were preparing for this AP exam, you should have the knowledge and necessary background with additional preparation to take that subject test. So I have had some questions in the past about some students being worried that they didn't get to take the AP course before taking the subject test. That's okay. Sometimes it's up to the school schedule and curriculum that didn't work. We do want to take subject tests that highlight our abilities and our strengths. So if you did take an AP course, then yes, it would be a great opportunity if you feel prepared to take that in the subject test. But it is okay also to just prepare on your own with a book or with an online resource subject test if you weren't able to offer the AP course. That's something important to realize as well. When you are applying to college, your school counselor will send your transcript, which has your 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade grades with your GPA to the college with the school profile. So the college will see what opportunities were offered in your school. So they'll see if you were an AP or IB school. They'll see that if you had honors classes. They'll see if you had MYP courses. So we want to make sure that we're planning our schedule correctly through 9th through 12th grade. We want to make sure we're taking rigorous courses. The college the admissions counselors want to see that the child challenge themselves. So if you're just taking regular and that's, where you feel comfortable, next year try and take an honors course. And then who knows, maybe you'll enjoy it and then you'll be able to take an AP the following year. We always want to be challenging ourselves and choosing a rigorous course if possible. So that was a great question. Next question, essay part mandatory on the SAT? Great question. You guys are really nailing everything on the head. So the essay portion of the SAT was added about 8 years ago. No, 12 years ago. I was trying to think what year it was, about 12 years ago. And they weighed heavily on the essay at that portion of time. Over time, though, the essay has moved into a direction of being optional. And that has really been a trend that I have seen in the last 2 years, that a lot of schools are saying the essay portion of the SAT is optional. But I always encourage the students on their first time, take the essay, get it done with. In case a school does want it, have it done. The next time you take the SAT, second, third, or fourth time, you wouldn't need to take it again. But this goes back to when you are making your college list, look at the requirements. Make sure the essay is not a requirement if you did not take it. But just to be safe, you can get it done on the first time and get it out of the way. So that was a really good question because that's something that's been changing with trend. Okay, so I think that was 14 straight questions. So you guys are definitely reaching out, which is great. Are there any questions before I check some of our pre-registered questions? Keep them coming. That was fun. Okay, so I have on here a question that was asked, and you guys can keep thinking, and if you get one my way, I'll continue to run through some of the ones that you guys already sent in. What are some unique and productive ways to spend the summer besides a formal camp? We discussed this a little bit, but we always want to continue to build our resume, and summer camps are not only the only way to get accomplishments on our resume. So I encourage students to keep a Word document or a binder with all of their achievements. It doesn't have to be a formal resume, but just a place to keep notes of community service and employment activities, sports, and awards. This will help you over the next 4 years see if there's any gaps in your resume. Like I discussed, colleges want to see well-rounded students. They want to make sure that students aren't just adding clubs and activities their senior year of college. So make sure that you are well-rounded. If you like science, then join the science club. If you are into engineering, then do robotics. If you're into business, there's DECA. There's a lot of opportunities at your school, so just make sure that you're reaching out. Over the summer, though, you have a lot of free time, right? So what can you be doing over the summer? You can tutor at your local library. You can volunteer at your animal shelter, Big Brother, Big Sisters. You could teach a class or a workshop at a local library. For example, in Florida, we have 2 great organizations where students can volunteer with physical and mentally disabled students on a soccer team or a baseball team. This is a great experience for the volunteers and the athletes, and a lot of students will actually focus their college essay on that experience. In Atlanta, there's a nonprofit every year where they look for volunteers to make sandwiches for children who don't have lunch over the summer. You could job shadow and physician shadow. This is a great opportunity for you to get a little experience in the field. If you are thinking BSMD, you will need job shadow and physician shadow. So this is a great opportunity. Look for an internship. If you're interested in a profession, try and find an internship that will help you gain experience. If you like to write, work on a blog. If you submit something to the newspaper and you get a published article, that's something you could also send to college as well, that you have a published article. So over the summer, there was a lot of time to volunteer and to help out with the community as well. So please make sure you're using all your time wisely, especially over the summer. Okay, I see we got 2 more questions. How does high school ranking matter when applying to universities? It's a great question. High school ranking, I've seen it greatly impact students in, for example, Georgia and Florida. There are a lot of scholarship opportunities that focus on rank. So if you meet a certain 10% of your class, you'll receive a scholarship. For example, University of Central Florida, if you're top 10% of your class, you get automatic acceptance to the college, and that's for a lot of different schools as well. So ranking is important as far as seeing where you fall compared to your peers. You will put that on your application as well. You will say what number out of what number you are. And that's just a way for colleges to see where you fall compared to your peers. It has been a trend for some schools to move away from the ranking. My school, we still rank, but I did read an article last week that says a lot of schools are moving away from that ranking. So only time will tell how that will affect the admissions process, but we want to make sure that we're working hard, our GPA is solid, and we're using rigorous courses. So remember, your ranking is based on GPA, and GPA can be weighted on those AP, IB, or honors courses. So the more you take, the higher your GPA will be, then your higher your rank will be. So that's a great question. So I just received another question about 7-year programs into medical school. So yep, so Moon Prep focuses on a lot of students that are interested in BSMD accelerated programs. So we all have a lot of experience with directing students to the correct BSMD program. As you know, they're extremely competitive. Some schools only have spots 7 to 10 students. So we want to make sure that we have a very competitive profile. We want to make sure our transcript and our test scores are extremely competitive because we will be applying to multiple BSMD programs if that is the track that you want. There are a lot of opportunities as far as direct programs and accelerated programs out there. Some schools, you don't have to take the MCAT and you get directly into the medical program. Some schools, you do have to take the MCAT, but this is why we want to be able to do our research, and we want to make sure we have a solid list for BSMD as well as our regular schools. But yeah, Moon Prep has a lot of experience with making sure you have the right BSMD programs that you'll be applying to. So that's a great question. Okay, so that seems to be the last one that was sent. So I can move back to the pre-sent ones while you guys are thinking. This is a great question that was sent to me. How do I obtain a physician shadowing opportunity? I get this question a lot, and I suggest reaching out to your family physician or pediatrician. Start with someone you know. Someone you or your family already has an established relationship with is a really great way to get in. A family friend or relative who is a physician is also a good option to start with. Keep in mind you want this to be mutually beneficial, so tell them how you will add to their practice. Also show that you are flexible and able to work with their schedule. Send them your resume and potentially your online profile. A LinkedIn profile would be great. This will allow them to see your extracurricular activities and interests. But yes, if you're thinking BSMD and that direct medical program, you do want to have some shadowing under your belt. So that would be why not start now over the summer while you have the time. A lot of students will also do a rotation. So they'll do some hours with a pediatrician, and then they'll do some hours with a neurologist, and then that looks really great on the resume as well. And then it's also a great reply for our supplemental essay that might say, please tell me why this major, or for a BSMD program specifically, why are you interested in a BSMD program? And you can talk about your specifics in your shadowing experience. Okay, we have another question. At what age should students begin thinking about the college and application process? So that's a great question. And it's never too early to begin the process. I know Mark started off the webinar with that line, and it's 100% true. It's never too early. My brother is 6 years older than me, and my parents took me on college visits. So I was looking at schools of where he wanted to go. And for a middle schooler, when I walked around a college and I saw they had a McDonald's in their campus center, I was like flabbergasted that I can eat McDonald's every day when I go to college. So, you know, whatever motivates your child. For me, in a middle schooler, it was McDonald's. And to tell you the truth, I didn't even eat McDonald's once when I went to college. But whatever keeps students motivated, you never want to miss out on an opportunity. So make sure that your child has good work habits from an early age, that they get a good night's rest every night, that they have a healthy breakfast every morning if possible. Sometimes prepping the night before will assist with that. Make sure that they have a place in the house where they can study with little distractions. I can't tell you how many students tell me that they couldn't get their homework done last night, and when I ask why, they say because they were on Instagram all night. Well, that Instagram story will come and go, or that Snapchat filter will come and go as well. But you know, really studying for your classes and your tests, and making sure your GPA is high, as well as studying for the SAT and ACT, is extremely important. So it's never too early to start the process, and it's never too early to gain good habits, which I always encourage the students to do. Great. So I just received another question of what are the top tasks juniors should complete before they start junior year, before they start senior year, I apologize. So we talked about the SAT and the ACT. That's something that they should definitely be working on junior year. I encourage students to go on college visits. For many high school students, it's hard to imagine what college is really like. If a student is graduating from a high school with 2,000 students, it's hard to picture a college campus with over 65,000 students. And opposite, for a student graduating from a high school with 10,000 students, it may be hard to picture a college with 2,000 students. So visiting colleges will allow students to see what size school they feel comfortable in, as well as a location. Do they want rural, metropolitan, suburban? When we're creating our college list, we look at interest, major, size, and location. And those are a lot of the main categories. So we want to make sure that we are visiting colleges. Of course, you can't visit every college before you apply. It's a lot of time consuming, as well as it can be a lot of money to visit. But make sure you do visit so you can narrow down your interests. And then when you are accepted, you would have the opportunity to visit those schools, because you would want to visit the school before you send your deposit. I can also not tell you, working in an international school, how many students tell me that they want to study in New York. And when I ask them, oh, great, I love New York. Have you ever seen snow before? And most of my Brazilian students say, no, they've never seen snow. So I would never discourage an entire region of the United States based on weather. But we do want to remember that students are in college for 4 years. So if you haven't seen snow and you want to commit to a New York university, it is important to potentially go visit a school in the winter and see if you'd be comfortable for 4 years in that type of environment. During junior year as well, students should be working on their college list, as well as just brainstorming. In the summertime before senior year, they should be working on Excel spreadsheets specifically based on their stats and their data. And then lastly, what I encourage students to do between junior year and senior year in the summer is work on that college essay. Get that first draft done. The essay topics of the Common App haven't changed over the last few years. Like we discussed, there's those 6 questions, and then the 7th one is a topic of your choice. So make sure that something that you're working on when you have that extra time. So yep, getting the essay done over the summer will be extremely beneficial when you start fall, trying to get those applications in on time, as well as doing all the coursework for your senior year. Got one more question of how many times do you recommend taking the SAT or ACT? We kind of talked about that a little bit, but it really depends on the student and how they prepare and what their test taking strategy is. But I always encourage students to please make a testing plan, open up a calendar through junior year, look at when the SAT and ACT is offered, because if you have a family trip during one of those weekends, or for example, you have prom, the Friday before an SAT, you want to make sure you're planning that efficiently. Make sure, because you wouldn't be able to take the one when you have a family trip, you'd want to take the one before, the one after. So maybe you could take the ACT that month. But you definitely want to be planning out your test taking strategy. That way you don't miss an opportunity to take an exam, especially if you're preparing for it rigorously. Okay, so we have another question of about studying for the SAT and ACT, and I just have a few tips. The more preparation that you do for the SAT and ACT, the better, to gain your confidence, number one, but also the more you learn about the test questions and the way they ask questions, the better. If you already know the directions for each section, and when you open your test, you don't have to read the directions, that will save you a minute on each section. And sometimes that minute is extremely beneficial at the end when you have a few questions left. It is important to note for the SAT and the ACT as well, all questions are worth the same amount of points. So if you get stuck on one question, you want to be sure that you move on, and you can always go back to it, because if they're all worth the same, you don't want to spend 5 minutes on one section, on one question, and then miss out on answering some other ones. So please move on and then go back to it. And then if there's only 1 minute left and there's 4 questions left, make sure you bubble them in. Try and look at them and try and answer to the best of your ability, but you don't want to leave anything blank, because you don't lose points for wrong answers on the SAT. Okay.
Hey, Alex, did you see there's a question came in on the chat?
Oh, no.
Yeah, so I just saw that coming in. So I don't know if you can see that.
Great. Yes. Okay. Just applying very early. Thank you, Mark. Yeah. Just applying very early. The date opens help in admissions, all other things being equal, or is there no consideration by admissions committee on how early you apply? It's a great question. So there are a few different deadlines as far as the application process. We have early decision, we have early action, we have regular, and we have rolling. For rolling admission, that would be extremely important. So if the doors open for a school that is rolling on August 1st, and you apply on August 1st, you will hear back in 2 weeks most likely. So for schools that are rolling, you will hear back very quickly. Also, the amount of openings that they have in the beginning is higher than if you applied, let's say, in March for a rolling school. As far as many of the other schools that have the early decision, they just accept all of the applications and then we'll review them after the deadline. But you do get perks for some schools when you do apply earlier before the deadline. For example, the University of Florida, if you apply before November 1st and you are accepted, they will use your early sending in your application early as assistance for your housing. So the people that apply earlier will get better housing. So there are some perks along the way, but for many of the schools that have those hard deadlines, it wouldn't assist as far as being compared to your peers. But that was a really, really great question.
Hey, Go ahead, finish.
Oh, and just to focus on early decision is a binding contract. So that would be a school that you would want to apply to if you were 100% sure you would want to go, because it is tricky to get out of that binding contract. Early action is a non-binding contract with an early deadline, being like November 1st, November 15th. You can apply to multiple schools early action. It's a smaller pool of applicants, and typically the acceptance rate is a bit higher. Regular is usually a January 1st deadline, and then rolling is the one that goes from about August to June, and that works on the amount of openings that there are. So for those schools, you would want to apply early as well. So if you have your applications all in for early action, then you should apply to all your schools by that early deadline, even if it's a rolling school.
Hey, Alex, this is Mark. I have a follow-up question for you on that. How do people find out if a school is on rolling or not? And is that something that you help your students with when you're going through their picking their college lists?
Yes, that's an excellent question. So when I work with my students with their college list, that is a category that I like on my Excel document. I like to have an area that says the deadlines. So if you see that 9 of your 10 schools have that early action opportunity, working on the college on the Excel spreadsheet, then yes, we will apply early action to all of those schools. All of that information is on the school's website. And then through, the experience of doing this process for so long, I know kind of the trend of which schools will do the early decision versus early action versus regular. But it is important to note there has been a new trend of early decision 2 coming out. So you have the option of early decision 1. If you are not accepted to your school for early decision 1, they now created early decision 2 to hopefully, pull some people in to apply for that early decision 2 opportunity if they don't get into their early decision 1. This is a great question.
That is a great question.
When we sign up with Moon Prep, how can we make sure we get you as a counselor? Well, I'll ask Mark for that one.
Yes, that's where I come in. You just tell me that you want Alix, and fortunately I have a little pool here, so I'm sure we can make that work.
You made my whole night anonymous. Okay. So I think that was the last chat and then the last question and answer.
Do you have any more questions that people would send in?
No, I'm done with my pre-register.
We're coming up to the end of the hour anyway. There's if anyone has any further questions, we have time to take a couple more. If not, I'll kind of talk a minute. Again, I'd encourage a couple things. Visit our website at moonprep.com. We have a lot of free resources. Our counselors and Kristen, our owner-founder, do a lot of writing. So you're going to find some great articles in our blogs and in some of the free resources that you can get. And if you are looking, reach out to me at mark@moonprep.com. Find out more about how we can help you out and maybe take advantage of our our Get Into Summer special. So we really, we're it's never, as we mentioned, it's never too early to start. Summers are such a great time to be working on this because it's when you have some time. So be thinking about that with your students. And I don't think there's any more questions. So you have anything else, Alix?
No, I wanted to thank everyone for their time tonight and good luck through the process. And just remember, Moon Prep is here to help.
Yes, we will be following up with an email over the next 24 hours, and you can get a replay of this webinar so that you can have it if you want to go back and listen to any of the great answers that Alix gave to this. So I'd like to thank Alix on behalf of Moon Prep for doing this and everybody for attending today. We got the last one. You see that?
Oh, yes, I think that one's for you, Mark.
I did. So email me at mark@moonprep.com and I will have that discussion with you. Just do that, and we don't have to have everyone. We can talk about your specific situation, and we can make that happen. So if you just email me at mark@moonprep.com, we will get a time to get on the phone and take care of that. I think that's it. Again, I'd like to thank everyone. Alix, thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great night.